Hello everyone, welcome to the TheCloudVirus and my name is Virender. I welcome you all in this particular video. So in this particular video guys, we are going to do an end-to-end generative AI on AWS project, and in this particular project, what will be the agenda? We will discuss the agenda and we will discuss the different particular services on which we are going to create this end-to-end project, right? So be with me. It will be very, very interesting if you are a college student or if you are a professional and want to learn something on AWS and related to the generative AI. This project will help you a lot. As I have worked on this particular project, I have created this project, and this is a very, very interesting project to create. So let's start this particular video. Now, first discuss about the agenda of this particular project. So the project is basically related to the media and entertainment industry, right? So it will be generative AI project, which will be having the use case of media and entertainment. And in this particular project, we will have some key points on which we'll first start with the project introduction. I will introduce this particular project. What are the different steps we are going to follow inside this particular project? What are the different AWS services we are going to use and how this entire project is going to happen? All these things we will be going to be discussing. Then we'll talk about the prerequisites. What are the different prerequisites in this particular concept? Like if you are doing this project, then what are the different steps you need to follow before performing this entire project by yourself? Then we have the S3 bucket creation and Lambda function creation. And then we'll be having AWS Lambda and Bedrock integration because Amazon Bedrock is a particular service on this particular generative AI which will help us to create the desired output which is related to the media and entertainment, because we are going to give a prompt in our code, and then that with the help of that particular code, Bedrock is going to give us the desired output. Then we'll see how we can store the image we are going to generate with the help of that Bedrock. We are going to store that image inside the simple storage service, because at the end of the day, every organization needs a storage to store the media files, kind of file like MP3, video, audio. These kind of files will be stored inside the cloud storage, and there is a dedicated storage service in AWS, which is simple storage service. At the end, we'll see how to create, how to generate a pre-signed URL with the help of our code, so that we'll don't have to every time go to the S3 and to access that particular object which is going to be stored inside that S3. Even because if you again go inside that S3 service, it will take a lot of time and efforts to get that particular output every time. Instead of that, we can generate pre-signed URLs inside this S3 with the help of our code, so that every time when you require to access that particular output, you use that pre-signed URL and you put that inside your browser, and automatically the output will be downloaded inside your local system, right? So this will be the agenda of this project. Now let me just turn off my video so that you will be able to see the entire screen, right? Let me just, okay. Now only my voice, you will be hearing only my voice, okay? You are not gonna see me again. Okay, so let's start this concept, guys. And to start this concept, let me show you what kind of output we are going to create. This kind of output we are going to generate with the help of this particular project. I have generated a picture of a dog basically, but you can generate any kind of output you want with the help of the particular project. And we will generate another output as well. Okay, so be with me in this entire project. It will gonna help you a lot. So let's just start this particular session, and let me just start with the agenda. So this is the project which is related to the media and entertainment industry, where with the help of this particular project you can create a poster. Maybe you can create a poster design for your organization. You can create this poster design for if you're working in a film industry maybe, or you're working in any industry. The main agenda of this particular project is to generate an image with the help of different AWS services by the integration of the multiple AWS services, right? That will be the agenda, to generate an image with the help of generative AI on AWS. That will be the agenda, right? After that, what we are going to do, very first task, as we have discussed, that the project introduction. I have already given you the introduction of this project, right? The main outcome of this project will be that we are going to create, or we are going to generate an image, any type of image you can generate with the help of the prompt or input you are going to give to your generative AI model. The desired output will be given to you by the Amazon Bedrock service. That is the basic introduction of this particular project. Now, what will be the project architecture? So let's just discuss about the basic architecture, what we are going to discuss inside this particular project. So if I talk about the architecture, so there will be a user. Very first, there will be a user, right? I can be a user, you can be a user is going to make a request, and you can call that request as an API request, maybe, right? So this user is going to generate or create an API request. Or you can say that this user is going to give a prompt to on your application, maybe the model you are creating with the help of generative AI. This user is going to give a prompt to your generative AI model, and this request further goes to the particular AWS service, which the service is known as AWS API Gateway. AWS API Gateway. This API Gateway is also integrated with this entire architecture, but in this particular project, we are not going to see the particular column, or you can say the topic of API Gateway in this particular video. I will create another dedicated video on this API Gateway as well. So in our next video, I'm going to show you how you can integrate this API Gateway as well inside this entire architecture. Now, once this prompt will hit the API Gateway as an event, it will be sent to one AWS service which is named as AWS Lambda. Now, this AWS Lambda is an event-driven serverless service. So the out or the input which user is giving, that will be sent to your API gateway as a prompt, and this prompt as an event will be sent to the AWS Lambda. Now that prompt now will be sent to your main service which is named as Amazon Bedrock. And now behind this Amazon Bedrock, we have a dedicated foundation model, which is known as the model which we are going to use inside this particular project. That is your Stable Diffusion by Stability AI. Right now, this Stability AI in reverse will generate the image, and the output will be given to this Amazon Bedrock, and then that output is going to be stored inside the simple storage service that is known as AWS S3. That is your simple storage service, right? So the image which is generated by this Stability AI, let's take an example that this user has given a prompt, generate an image of a man having gun in his hand. This image this user wants to generate from this particular entire model, and this input is going to the API gateway as an API request, which will be sent as an event to your AWS Lambda. Then this information will be sent to the Bedrock, because we are going to integrate this Amazon Lambda, AWS Lambda, to the Amazon Bedrock service. Behind that, we are using Stable Diffusion model, which is a foundation model basically, and which is used to generate images inside this generative AI model. Stable, because with the help of the Stability AI, Stable Diffusion Foundation model is going to generate that particular image, and as we are going to integrate this Amazon S3 to the Amazon Bedrock service, so the image is going to be stored inside this S3 as an object. Then we are going to generate a pre-signed URL, and that pre-signed URL will be sent towards 2 points. First, that pre-signed URL will be sent to the API gateway as well, and secondly, the user will be able to access the desired output directly from that pre-signed URL, and the object is already stored inside the simple storage service. So user will able to access that object or that particular desired output with the help of that pre-signed URL, which we are going to generate with the help of this particular model, right? So this will be the architecture to build basically, right? We are going to generate this entire architecture, we are going to create this entire architecture, and as with the help of the different AWS services in which we have API gateway, we have Lambda, Bedrock, foundation model, Amazon S3, and pre-signed URL kind of things we are going to use, and this architecture is we are going to create as, right? So for this entire architecture, what I have done, I have created a document, right? If you will comment out on this particular video, I will give you this entire document which I have created. So in this particular document, as you can see, that the very first prerequisite, right? So we have seen these things already. Let me just give a tick mark to this, that we have discussed about the project introduction. We have discussed about the project architecture. Now we are going to discuss about the prerequisites, right? So as per my document, there are two main prerequisites to perform this entire generative AI model. The first, we need to access the models or the foundation models from the Amazon Bedrock service. And second, we need to update or upgrade the Botto 3 version inside AWS Lambda. But this second prerequisite is, we don't have to do the second prerequisite, because in what happens in earlier times that AWS was not having a dedicated, version of this Water 3 which is related to the Bedrock, which integration with the AWS Lambda. Now they have a dedicated version, and they have updated all the versions inside this Bedrock and AWS Lambda. So now we don't need to upgrade this particular version. We are going to check that if the AWS Lambda Water 3 version is greater than 1.28.63, then it will be okay. If the version is not more than this, then we need to upgrade this entire Water 3 version. But the very first prerequisite is that we have to request to access the Amazon Bedrock models. Let me take you to the AWS Management Console. So this is my AWS Management Console. So with the help of this graphical user interface of AWS, we are going to perform this entire generative AI model. So the very first thing, we need to go to the Amazon Bedrock service. You have to search for Amazon Bedrock. So this Amazon Bedrock service is a service where with the help of that you can easily build and scale your generative AI application with the different foundation models available. If you click on these three lines over here, if there is a point which is model access, you just click on this model access, and now you can see access status of all these models are now access granted, because I have already taken the access from AWS. But first, what you need to do, you just select all these models and submit a request to access this particular model. In a couple of minutes, the access will be provided to you on your account. Once you are done with this particular thing, then you go to your AWS Lambda service. And before going inside the Lambda service, what we need to do is, let me just take you to the instruction over here. This is the architecture we have discussed. So the very first task, or the different task which we are going to perform inside this particular generative AI model, is that first we are going to create an S3 bucket. Then we will be creating an AWS Lambda function. Then we will connect the AWS Bedrock Stability Diffusion model to generate the image based on the prompt which we are going to provide. Then we are going to store this particular image as an object in the S3. We'll generate a pre-signed URL for the image we are going to generate with the help of the AWS Bedrock. And then we are going to send this URL as an response to the API gateway. But this point we are not going to cover inside this particular video. We'll be having a dedicated video for that part. Okay. So now for that, the very first thing is that we need to create an S3 bucket. So first let's go to the S3 bucket, because without bucket, because bucket is a container inside a simple storage service. If you do not have this particular bucket, you are not going to, or you will be not able to store the desired output in a particular storage service of AWS, right? So let me give name to this particular bucket as media and entertainment 2. This is the name I'm giving to this particular bucket, and leave everything default and just click on this create bucket option. Now, as you can see, this media and entertainment 2 bucket has been created by the AWS. And now let's move towards the next service, which is AWS Lambda service. Let me open this in another tab. Now we need to create a Lambda function. As you can see that first we have created this point. We have created the Amazon S3 bucket. Here we have, and then now we need to create an AWS Lambda function, right? So let's click on this create function. Let me give name as media function 123. This will be the name. And runtime, let's select Python 3.12 version because we are going to use Python software development kit to perform this entire generative AI project, and leave everything default and just click on this create function. Now, the Python code which we are going to use inside this project, I have written this entire code inside this notepad, as you can see. So there are total 8 steps to follow. If you want to create this entire project by your own, I will also share this entire code with you if you will comment out. Those who will be comment out in the below section of the video, I will give the link to download all the things which I am going to use inside this particular project. I will give one by one to all the participants who are going to comment out below the video. Now you can see that the media function 123 has been created. Now let's move towards the instructions. Now you can see the function has been created. Now let's move towards the point. Now, very first thing is that we need to, provide some permissions to our Lambda role as well, Lambda function, as well as we need to increase the timeout limit of the function as well, because inside this Lambda, if you go to the configuration section in this general configuration, you can see the timeout, default timeout is just 3 seconds for the function. So once you will be, putting your code inside that function will be, run for only for 3 seconds. So the project which we are creating basically to get the image as an output from the Bedrock, so that this entire process will take a little bit of time to process. So that's why we need to increase this timeout. And let me just put it at 1 minute, 3 seconds, or 5 seconds as per your convenience. You can just do this as per configuration. Let's click on this save button. So the task is completed. We have increased the timeout limit for the Lambda function. Second, we need to go to the permission section. Here they have generated a default role for your Lambda function. If I click on that, it will take me to the identity and access management console. What we need to do is we need to provide two types of permissions to this Lambda function. The first permission, which is related to the Amazon Bedrock service, and second permission which is related to the S3 service, because both the services we are going to use. As with the help of this Lambda function, we are going to access the Amazon Bedrock service and also Amazon S3 service, because Bedrock is going to give us the desired output and we are going to store the desired output inside the simple storage service. So as of now, you can provide different permission by just searching as Bedrock. You can use this Amazon Bedrock full access, or you can search for S3 and you can perform Amazon S3 full access. But for the time being, let me just give this particular role as an administrator access, so that we'll not face any type of challenges while performing this entire project. So I'm providing administrator access to that particular Lambda function. I have provided that, and now this Lambda function is having the desired permission. So we are good to go. Now let's move on to the coding part. And in this particular coding part, we have a dedicated code written inside this particular document. As you can see, now the very first thing is we are going to do, let me just copy this over here and I will also explain this code to you. Let me delete this because JSON has already been imported. So what I am going to do, first point over here, is that we are going to, import necessary libraries to perform this entire project, in which we have JSON, we have Auto3, we have base64, and we have datetime. So this JSON is going to help us with the JSON data, which is a common data format nowadays. And this Boto3 is the software development kit from AWS for the Python. So we are going to use this Boto3 to interact with the different AWS services. We are going to import this base64 because This base64 is used for the encoding and decoding the data, whatever the data we are going to use inside this entire project, and this date and time will be help us work with the date and times, right? So let me just deploy this code so that all the necessary libraries are installed inside this particular function. So this is the first task, as you can see, hashtag comment out one import moto 3. This is what I have done. Now the second task which we need to perform is that we need to create a client connection with the Bedrock and between the S3 service. So this is the code which I am going to use, is that we need to create a connection between two AWS services. So the first service is AWS Bedrock. You can see over here. This is the first service, and the second service is your S3, right? So client Bedrock is equal to Moto3 dot client, and client S3 is equal to Moto3 dot client. In bracket, I have written this S3 because this client Bedrock is going to connect to the Bedrock service, and client S3 is going to that service to which that Bedrock is going to be connected, right? Apart from that, there is a line written over here. You can see that Lambda handler. This is the handler. Main function is this for this entire code. This is particular the main function, we can say, in which we have an event, right? Which is the event is going to be contain that data that is going to be trigger the Lambda function as an input. Whatever the input we are going to give, that event is going to give that information to the Lambda function, and in the form of the context. That context is basically having the information about the function's execution, because we are going to execute that particular function. So that context is basically which is having the information, right? Now this is the second step we are performing, in which we are using this particular Python code to make a connection between the Bedrock service and the client simple storage service. Third step is that how we are going to store the input data inside with the help of that particular prompt, the input data which is called as prompt, which is going to be stored inside a variable which is named as input underscore prompt. So this is a particular variable in which we are going to store that particular information, or the input which is known as a prompt. The input, what will be the input? The input is going to be generate an image of a man having gun in his hand. That will be the prompt, and that will be the input is going to be stored inside this input underscore prompt. And with the help of this print function, we are going to print that particular information over the screen, right? Let me just deploy this code, and let's try to run this, test this code. If so, the error has been removed. Now move towards the next step, which is the step number 4, where we are going to create a request to the Bedrock service. So basically, in this particular code you are seeing on this on the screen, in which the step number 4 is that we are going to create a request to the Bedrock service with our input prompt, which we are going to provide with the help of one invoke model. As you can see over here, that we are integrating the client Bedrock with this particular invoke model. This invoke model is nothing but type of method, right? The method which we are going to use inside this particular code. And after that, it is just like this invoke model is just like a method we are using inside that particular model. So it's like the machine learning model, and we are specifying the parameters like what type of content it will be, right? What type of application it will be, what will be the acceptance stage, and what will be the model we are going to use in this particular section. We are using stability AI model, which is stable diffusion model version this. But as of now, the version is not 0. This version has been updated to version 1 as of now. If you want to check the version of the particular foundation model, you just go to the Amazon Bedrock service over here, and let's move towards this image playground, and let me select a model as stability AI stable diffusion, and let's apply, and let me give the same any type of prompt that generate an image of a cat. Now from here, three dots, you go to this API request, and from here you can access the model ID from here. As you can see over here, this model ID has, you can copy this model ID from here, and you can go to your function and you can add this model ID. As of now, it is having the version 1. Okay, So in this particular step number 4, we are basically, creating a request to the Bedrock service, basically with the help of the client or the invoke model, which is, like a machine learning model we are using, and we have specified some parameters like what kind of body it will be, what will be the model ID. So if our input prompt is create a sunset image, the body of the request will be JSON data that will include this particular prompt information. Now, after this, let's just deploy this particular code, and now we have to retrieve and process the response. So now we need to retrieve that particular information, and now after that we get the response from the Bedrock, and it will be read it as a JSON data via this step number 4. Now this JSON data is basically is going to be stored inside the response Bedrock byte. Okay, so this will be the fourth step inside our particular code. After that, we have the sixth step in which we are going to perform the encoding and decoding step, because we are going to decode the image data. So whatever the response will be generated by the Amazon Bedrock, the response contains the image data, and that will be encoded in base64 in this particular library we have installed earlier, right? And we decode this data to get the actual image. These are the 2 points we need to consider over here. First, we have the particular image which will be generated by your Amazon Bedrock, and then that image is going to be decoded with the data to get the actual image inside our local system. Getting my point? So as of now, we have installed the different libraries. We have created the client connection between the Amazon Bedrock and S3 service. We have stored the input as a prompt. We have created a request syntax to access the Bedrock service, and have provided some multiple parameters as well. Okay, and after that, we are going to retrieve that particular data, whatever we need from the Amazon Bedrock service. We are going to decode that particular service inside that answer. So if the response contains an image in base64 format, we decode it to get the raw image data basically. So the raw image data will be getting by us when this entire dedicated model is going to be generate that particular content. Now, once we will have that particular image, now it's time to upload or to put that particular image inside that particular simple storage service of AWS. So the step number 7 is going to help us that we basically generate a unique name for the image using the current date and time library firstly, and we will upload that particular image to S3 bucket. Now in this particular case, let's just copy the name of this S3 bucket in which you want to put that particular data, and let's just put it over here in the bucket name itself. And once you put it over here, or you can see that the format of the folders will be created inside your simple storage service will be as year, month, date, minute, and second. This type of format you are going to be get inside your simple storage service account. So if the current date and time is June 13th, and whatever the time will be, so the object or the file name will look like that, the name of that name of the poster which we are going to create, and the date and time starting from the current date and time, and that output will be stored inside that particular bucket which we have created. Right now, as you can see, this bucket is empty. Okay, so once we are going to deploy this entire code in the AWS Lambda, it is going to store that particular information or the desired output. What will be the output over here? In our case, the output will be generate an image of a man having guns in his hand. That will be the output we are going to get inside the simple storage service. And at the end of this, we have the step number 8, which is basically to generate a pre-signed URL. Let me first test this particular code. So far we without the generating the pre-signed URL. Let's see if it is giving us the desired output or not. And if you want to check that it is providing us the function logs, so what you can do, you just go to your CloudWatch service to check the logs which are related to this particular function, if it is correct generating the logs or not, which are basically uh, related to this particular project which we are creating and the code which we are using, and we can check the logs which are being generated by, as you can see, all the logs are basically generated over here. You can check all the logs which are generated by the particular function, right? Now at the end, let me just use this code to generate a pre-signed URL. But before that, we have tested this code, and let's see if the desired output is being stored inside that S3 or not. Let's move towards the simple storage service and let's refresh this. Now you can see in this particular bucket, the output has been stored by this particular code, which is followed by the poster name 2024 12 of June. It is taking the previous date, so it is the date. Okay, 13 is the date, and this is the uh, entire, you can see the URL or the path of the particular desired output. So this object has been created as named as 24 12 27. Let me just download this inside our local system. So the image is going to be downloaded inside my local system name as 24 12 27. Let me just go to the path where it has been downloaded. That is, let me just open this paint and let's try to see that particular image. As you can see, it has generated the desired output that generate an image of a man having guns in his hand. So it is not a perfect output, but as of now, on the behalf of the project, it is a pretty much good output which has been generated by this particular Lambda function we have used. Right now, at the end, instead of every time going to this simple storage service and downloading this particular object, what we can do, we can generate a pre-signed URL with the help of this particular code, as you can see over the screen. Let me just put it this code. So this particular code, we create a URL that will be basically allows temporary access to this particular image, and this URL will be valid for 1 hour only. As you can see over here, where we have given the expire time as 3600 seconds, which is equal to the 1 hour. Okay, and let me just deploy this code. And now this time, let's try to change the desired prompt so that we will be able to see that if it is generating another image or not. This time we are going to generate an image of a dog who is sitting on a beach while sunset. This will be the desired output we want. Let me just save this and let's just test this event. Now the result will be executed and it will be show on your particular screen. And let's see what will happen, and we'll check another output. So as you can see, the pre-signed URL is also generated by this particular code, and it is a very long pre-signed URL. Let me just copy this pre-signed URL. And what you want to do, instead of going to the Amazon S3 again and again, but you can see over here, if you go to your bucket again, you will able to see that another file is already created by the particular test event. That is second time we have checked. And if you just go to the new tab and if you paste that particular pre-signed URL which is generated by the code, okay, we don't have access to that particular. Why we don't have the access? This will not be happening basically. Okay, let me copy from here and let's see if it will work or not. Otherwise, there will be some permissions issue inside S3 and we will have to modify those S3 bucket permissions and S3 object permissions to access this particular object. Otherwise, no issues. We have generated the pre-signed URL. As of now, we'll go to the S3 and we have to do some configuration changes. No worries. But as you can see, there is another file has been created by this desired output. If you go and if you check again, let's download this file as well and let's see if this is a different file or it will be the same output which it has generated previously. And let me just open this in the paint again and let's see. You can see that same output. We got a dog on the beach while having some sunset. So it was a pretty good, you know, project we have seen. So let me just make give you the revision type of thing, right? Let us revise that whatever all the things we have done. So we have seen the project introduction, which in which we have seen that we have done the generative AI project related to the media and entertainment. We have seen the architecture with the help of Lambda, with the help of S3 and Amazon Bedrock service. We have generated and generative AI, you know, output as an image. We have created an image. We have integrated the Lambda and Bedrock. We stored the desired output inside simple storage service, and we have generated a pre-signed URL. Although we are not able to use that pre-signed URL, but we can change the permissions by going inside the S3. But if I will do that, it will take more time, and this video will be stretched a lot more. No issues in that. Meanwhile, in the coming videos, I will show how to change the permissions inside the S3 bucket according to this type of errors if you face. But just let me know in the comment box how, if you like this entire project or not, and if you are going to do this project by yourself or not, and whatever the code I have used to perform this entire architecture or this entire generative AI model. I will be putting this code, I will be giving this code to those participants who are going to comment out inside and in this particular comment section of this video. And do like this video, and please subscribe my channel. It will be motivate me to give you more and more projects in the coming time. Now it's just a media and entertainment use case I have performed. Apart from that, there will be more use cases with the help of generative AI on AWS. We have text summarization, text generation, image generation, multiple, so many. We can create chatbots using this particular generative AI model on AWS. We have different models available inside this Amazon Bedrock service. As you can see, we have a lot of models available. In case of chat, we have Amazon Anthropic, Cohere, Meta, so many models we have. So we can perform so many projects. We can do so many projects with the help of these type of foundation models available in this Amazon Bedrock service. So just let me know in the comment box how, if you like this video or not, and do you want more projects from my side. So I will be putting more projects in the coming time as well. And thank you so much for watching this video, guys. uh, okay, yeah, thank you so much. Take care. Bye bye. We'll meet again in the next video. Thank you so much.